It's time for Two Guys and a Goalie with Dustin Nielson, Matt Kassian, and the goalie, Joaquin Gage.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Two Guys and a Goalie. Kassian, Gage, Gage and Salas, and Dustin Nielson with you, presented to you by our friends at Cool Bet Canada. Fastest payouts in the industry. Interact D-Transfer for withdrawals and deposits. They'll beat any odds. Stay cool, bet responsibly with our friends at Cool Bet. If you're watching the live stream today and want to chime in at any moment, just hit us up in the comments section. We'll get to some of your questions as well. All right, Gager, how was the weekend, buddy? How was the weekend?
Good. You know, Easter weekend. We hung out at home. We had an outdoor kind of with my brother-in-law in the backyard just to say hi, watch a bit of the Oilers game, and yeah, that was it. The rest was kind of lock it down and Netflix. That's it.
Hernan, how was the weekend, man?
Yeah, same. Just kind of chilled. I saw my parents on Friday. We did because on Good Friday we eat seafood.
Okay.
So we had some good food and watched the game and then just relaxed the rest of the week.
Is that in honor of your Tecmo team, the Chilean sea bass?
Yeah, somewhat.
Okay.
It's just the Chilean thing on Good Friday. We don't eat meat. So,
Cass, how was the weekend, buddy?
It was good. You know what, Hernan? I think that stems from a Catholic tradition because my very Ukrainian Catholic grandmother is the same thing. On Good Friday, you don't eat red meat. You eat fish.
Yeah.
So I know because my parents are helping take care of my grandparents, and so they drove out on Friday afternoon. For my dad picked up some walleye to make for my grandma because that's her favorite. So he went out there and did a good Friday lunch for them. So it was good. It was my oldest daughter's birthday the weekend on Friday. So on Good Friday. So that was like she's getting to the age where she like picked out everything she wanted to do during the day. Like she had the day organized. So she knew what she wanted for breakfast, and she was very concerned on Wednesday and Thursday, that I would make sure I would go to the grocery store to get everything so that we would be able to, have the meals that she wanted, because she wanted a smoothie and then pancakes for breakfast with syrup and whipped cream and butter all on the pancakes at the same time.
Wow.
It had to be a strawberry smoothie. She wanted to be a pink smoothie. And then, did all the presents and things for her. And then, she wanted a Happy Meal for lunch. So she got a Happy Meal for lunch, and then wanted pizza for dinner. So she got pizza for dinner. So it was
smokes.
I know, she got the whole day. My wife was like, "You realize you're setting a precedent with this?" And I was like, "I know, but I'm just a sucker." Those girls got me wrapped around their little finger. So it was a lot of fun. And then did the whole Easter meal on Sunday. So it was good. It ended up being a pretty full weekend actually, but a good weekend.
That's good. We started trying to teach Marshall how to ride a two-wheeler. No training wheels, right? He's 6. He's been on the two-wheeler with training wheels for 2 years now. So we got him a new big boy bike with no training wheels. And Cass, does your oldest ride without training wheels or no?
No, not yet. She's
tough.
She's very, very cautious with some things. So my wife could probably tell you, and she tells you the story better. We had started her riding the bigger bike with training wheels still, but she's very nervous about it. So the bike decided to take a trip from the sidewalk at one point to the middle of the lawn while doing multiple rotations because she was refusing to get onto it. And we had just bought her a new one to try to encourage it. And so Dad wasn't very happy. Not my best fathering moment. I placed the bike on the lawn. It just wanted to flip a few times to get there out of the way. That was last summer. So she's still on the bike with training wheels. She's gotten better, where she's a little bit more confident, but she still, she doesn't really want to push, to spin. She hasn't quite figured out how to really lean into pedals to get going. So it's if I give her a little push to start, she goes pretty good, but still really cautious. And then my second one is she's a little maniac.
She's on a unicycle.
She's just full bore. She's still on a Strider, without pedals at all yet. But she flies. Like I have heart attacks all the time about her just not being able to stop and like going into traffic, and she crashes all the time because she just has no regard for personal safety. It's
boy.
Yeah.
Gage, you got any points? You've been through this. You got any like tips for me or for us?
Don't ever use training wheels. That my son used training wheels, and he was, well, I think it's the first kid. You're a little bit more concerned about the safety of the first one. Once the next one comes, you realize you can drop them a few times and they don't break. So with the first one, and the striders are the best because they learn how to glide, right? So the training wheels, they rely on them too much and they lean to one side. I'm going to start a petition to ban training wheels from kids learning, because it does them no good. Go strider and then straight into the big boy bike. If they'll learn it in half an hour. My little girl learned how to ride a bike so much quicker because we had a strider, but it was the same thing. The second one just seems like Evel Knievel compared to the first one. So.
Yeah. Marshall yesterday was trying to figure out, I'm running along beside him, and Elizabeth's taking her bike over 3 school buses. Just like, Marshall, look at me. It's insane, man. It's crazy. Good times though. Fun things that you go through with kids. But boys, I'm thinking like 4 to 6 weeks to teach Marshall how to ride this fucking bike. It's gonna be the end of me, man. I'm gonna be flooding next year's rink, and he's just gonna be figuring it out, which is not gonna be good. All right, we got lots to get to. We got to talk about it, obviously. Keep it or clip it a little bit later on. Oilers get the Habs tonight. A couple of things coming out of this one, boys. Let's start with the fact that McDavid and Draisaitl have combined for 3 assists in 4 games against Montreal. Cass, what is it about the Habs that have made McDavid and Draisaitl look ordinary so far through 4 games?
They've done a really good job of forcing them to the outside. Like that's how they've been operating. They push everything to the outside in the defensive zone, and to this point, McDavid and Draisaitl haven't been able to get inside, and their line mates haven't really helped them in doing that. And even when they've been together, they've struggled a little bit with that. So it's interesting. I think it's just the physicality. Like Montreal's got their defensive core is just a lot more physical than most others, and not necessarily in just a beat you up way, but they engage physically, like, and they play the body versus trying to play the puck and play a finesse game for the most part, and they do a really good job of it. And that's just where they've had struggles. They've had good center support as well, the defensemen in the defensive zone, like where they've had help Montreal's defense, but overall they keep them out of the middle. And for Connor and Leon, that's where they thrive, is when they can either move the puck through the middle or bodies through the middle. That's when they open up a lot. So, Gage, how do they change that tonight, buddy? What do you do?
I think they just have to play their game. They've played them that's four
times.
Games they played. So the first 2, let's write those off because they were just awful games played by the Oilers. The third game, I believe, was the second and a back-to-back for Montreal, where Montreal didn't have anything. And then the last game, Edmonton didn't show up. So we haven't really seen Edmonton play their really solid game against the Canadiens' solid game, both at the same time. I think it's just a matter of the big boys coming to play a little bit more and playing a game that we've been accustomed to watching over the past few weeks. So we just haven't seen the Oilers' best against Montreal. Saying that, Cass is right. Those guys it's like playing a football game against linemen. They just lean on you the whole time, right? There's every time you're getting hit and pressed up against the boards and that physical play, it does wear you down by the end of the night. But I think tonight we'll finally get to see a rested Canadiens team against a rested Oilers team, and it should be a pretty good game.
Hernan, what are you expecting tonight, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, power plays too, right? If the Oilers can start potting a few games Montreal on the power play, that's going to involve McDavid and Draisaitl a lot. But Carey, you have to give him credit too. They've done an excellent job. Carey Price has been really good against the Oilers this year, and he's getting the start again. And it's the debut of Eric Stahl. I mean, he's not going to hurt them. He's definitely going to add something to that team. So, yeah, I'm expecting another tight one here. And Montreal's going to be feisty. They just got crushed by the Ottawa Senators on Saturday, and the Oilers are feeling good after their win. So, yeah, I'm expecting a close one here as well. And, hopefully the big duo can get something going versus this team tonight.
I'm not ignoring your Eric Stahl comment. I just got a question about him and keep her clip it. So we'll save it for there. We'll come back around to that a little bit later on. All right, let's dive into, we got to talk about it. Cass, let's start with you, buddy. Big story in the National Hockey League. What do we got to talk about, bud?
Huge story in the National Hockey League is just the continual adding of players to the Canucks COVID list. Started with one the other day, now up to 20 players and staff members. So this is just spread like wildfire. A lot of criticism coming in of the Canucks and their choice after that first confirmed. Who was first is
it was Gaudette.
Gaudette was the first.
Remember,
okay.
It was Gaudette, and then he tested positive. They skated the next day.
They skated still, and that because he was on the ice, they pulled him, and then they continued to skate. Probably in hindsight, a massive mistake by the team. They followed the NHL's protocols, but I don't know if it necessarily was common sense to say that we had a player that was in here, that was around everybody, that was on the ice, that tested positive. They probably should have done a little bit more. But my bigger question coming out of this is, what is the NHL going to do with the schedule, particularly because Vancouver is not a playoff team? We're going to be getting to the point here, and we had talked last time because I thought they were going to. I didn't foresee 20 players being added. I thought they had 6 or 7 at the point on last Thursday, and they added a few more. And I was like, okay, well, I think they're by the 12th or 14th, they're going to be fine. Like, they're going to be good to go. We're going to miss a week and a bit here, and we're good. But it could be longer now for this team. So what does the NHL do for the season? Do they extend the season as whole for the league? Do they just prorate the games for teams that are out of the playoffs? But how do you then factor in games that Vancouver might miss against, like in Edmonton or Montreal, or teams that are vying for playoff position? It creates a real a conundrum with not knowing how the league is going to handle it. I don't know what they're going to do, and I don't really see a way forward aside from maybe extending that season an extra week. But I don't think the league wants to do that, which just makes it even more interesting.
That's the point I want to hit on just quickly is, you sit here and talk about player safety, and we talk about it from a COVID perspective and keeping everybody safe. But at the same time, you're kind of throwing player safety out the bloody window this year by making Montreal play 20 games in 35 days. And let's say you get to a situation where the Canucks don't play for 2.5 weeks. And I know some people have said, well, put their games that they miss against Ottawa at the end of the year, and if everybody's eliminated, you can just cancel them and whatever, you skip ahead. But I don't know why the National Hockey League has to have a hard set beginning date for the playoffs in a year where you should be trying to be as flexible as you possibly can. So COVID screwed up your season. Then guess what? Your playoffs start 3 or 4 days later, so that players don't have to be driven into the ground by just playing because you didn't schedule things properly with COVID. To me, it's if I was the Players Association, I'd be livid right now.
Well, you think they would have talked about that beforehand, though? It was always my opinion, or maybe in the back of my mind, assumption, maybe not opinion. It was always my assumption that they had really built in a contingency to say, okay, if we need to add an extra 7 days, this is what it looks like. If we need to add an extra 14 days, this is what it looks like. Knowing that there were going to be teams that were going to miss some of the time. And so it's, I don't know what they're doing with this. And I would rather see them start, as you said, 3 or 4 days later, rather than try to cram everything in like crazy.
Yeah, I think they should move that start date. It should be fluid. I think they planned on possibly playing missed games through that bye week that teams have, possibly, and that's what their plan was. But we're gonna see some of these teams, they're playing so much hockey, and by the time playoffs roll around and injuries already, that's gonna make it. It's just gonna make the product not as good, right? It's just the biggest. Well, obviously the players are going to suffer, but fans as well, just because, God forbid one of your star players is injured for the first round of the playoffs, right? That could crush all your chances of a Stanley Cup. So yeah, I think they should be a little bit more fluid with that start of the playoff state.
It's so interesting though. Like I don't know if you guys saw yesterday, Ben Kuzma, who covers the team for years, he was reporting yesterday that the numbers are not as high as being reported, and that the players all have mild symptoms. And then you have Drags and those guys that are, they're in tune with everything that's going on, and they're reporting the opposite. So no one really knows what's going on here. Like all we know is it's a lot of cases, and it's affecting family members as well. So you wish the best for those players and their families. But you look at yesterday, Rick Bowness called, he was pulled out of the game halfway through. He was on the bench. He tested positive. Halak this morning, he was with his team yesterday. They were in the morning skate. Like and then is Boston going to play tonight? Like it's not being handled real well, and it's terrible to see what's going on in Vancouver. And Edmonton has 2 games versus Vancouver next week. Scheduled
They won't
Monday.
be playing those. No chance.
They won't be playing those. So that's what I mean. Is if there's a way to get the Oilers 2 games in that, then they're not missing out on the games, and they're not so crammed there towards the end either, right? So we'll see what happens. But yeah, not a good situation, and scary too, man. I mean, it's like Cass said, like Gaudette got pulled that morning skate, and they still skated. Like it's just you have to make better decisions at that time.
And this doesn't only just affect the players. You got to think of a guy with COVID. He's been around his family. I read that families are being infected too. Like, I mean, hopefully everyone's okay and just mild symptoms. But I mean, everyone's got the flu at home. You're worried about your kids, your wife. It's not a good situation.
And remember, Hamonic didn't play in the bubble playoffs because of one of kids, right?
Yeah, he
was one of the first ones to be added to the COVID list, right? So
because his daughter has a respiratory condition, I think, or something like that. So yeah, I mean, how are we close to just having the league shut down for 2 weeks here?
It might be, man. Like
I doubt they do that, considering they still want to jam it. The only reason they don't want to do it, Gage, is because playoffs have to begin in May. That's why. I don't know. It's crazy, but yeah, Cass, definitely worth talking about here on this episode. All right, let's go to Hernan. Hernan, what do we got to talk about, buddy?
Yeah, just big win for the Oilers on Friday. They didn't play their best, but they grinded another one out. Markstrom let in a stinky one there for the game winner, and you saw that game last night where Toronto really took it to them in the third. So I don't know I know 2 weeks ago I said I didn't want to jinx it, but I'm leaning more towards, I think the playoffs are set in the North Division. We just don't know where they're going to line up because Vancouver's done. I mean, especially with what the scheduling is going to do to them as well, how many games they're going to end up playing. And for me, Calgary's got 17 games left. They're 12 points back of the Oilers and Jets.
They're done.
And so it's down to Montreal. I mean, Montreal, if they win their games in hand, they're in. So for me, it's just all about positioning, and it feels good to say that.
It's weird because I thought this thing was going to come right down to the wire. Like I think we all did. We're like, oh man, outside of Ottawa, these 6 teams, it's going to be the final week, and it's almost the exact opposite. Which I mean, from a teams that are in perspective, I don't think that's surprising. I think we all thought Winnipeg, Toronto, and Edmonton were going to be in, and then we kind of debated on the Calgary, Vancouvers, and Montreals. But I didn't expect this thing to be wrapped up with a month left in the season. Cass, what surprised you about this? Like, how has it gone this way? Have Calgary and Vancouver just been massive disappointments, or is the top end of this division just way better than we thought it would be?
Well, I think Calgary's been a massive disappointment. I mean, Vancouver, we kind of knew like it could go either way with them. But I don't think anybody thought Calgary was going to be as poor as they have been. I picked them, if you guys remember, I picked them to finish first in the division. Like I thought
you are one pathetic loser.
I am one pathetic loser. Like I thought they were going to definitely be a playoff team because of the strength of their defense and the addition of Markstrom goaltending wise. I was like, they're not going to give up anything. Maybe Gaudreau bounces back a little bit and they have some offense that comes in and they're going to have a lot of success. And they just never did. And And that's the big one for me. Again, Vancouver, you kind of knew could go either way.
Yeah.
But I was hoping with Calgary and Winnipeg and Edmonton too. Like I thought it was going to be a little bit of a fight for that fourth playoff spot, but it doesn't look like it so much now, which is a little disappointing. That being said, it's still been pretty fun, and there's lots of fun storylines still through the rest of the season. So it's not like all is lost. It's boring now.
Yeah, I think I was right along with you, Cass, and I think I had Montreal out of the initial picture, and then Craig Button had them finish first, and then they were ripping the league apart at the beginning.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god, I didn't realize they were that good. And yeah, Calgary's been a disappointment. I thought they would be in for sure, and really, I hate to say it, but I didn't think Edmonton would be as good as they actually are. So I think a lot of that has to do with Smith and Nurse's play. But I really thought that they would be battling out with like Montreal and Edmonton and Vancouver, kind of in that fourth spot. They'd all be kind of around there for the whole season. So I don't like the situation entirely. I like teams that have a little bit of adversity going into playoffs and trying to kind of maybe have to battle that last 10 games to make sure they solidify their spot. It's always good to be playing kind of playoff hockey before the playoffs start, but maybe it gives them a chance to rest certain individuals coming down the stretch, and there could be some upside to it as well. But yeah, I think we were all looking forward to that scoreboard watching phase of the regular season.
Are you guys more like Markstrom struggles? Like, are you like, would you put that on? Like, he just hasn't been very good this season.
He's been awful. Well,
Yeah.
I can't say awful, but he's just, compared to what he was, he's awful. Like, and they never got what he provided for the Canucks. It's weird. I mean, I do think he can bounce back. It's a weird year and stuff, but yeah, that position, I don't think if you were to ask anyone back in January where you would be thinking the Flames had some issues, was going to be goaltending for sure.
Let me ask you this question that pops up and I was going to ask it anyway, so I guess great minds think alike here from LBBK, I think, on Twitter. It's small, I can't see it. Do you guys think Calgary made a mistake hiring Sutter, given no turnaround, and now committed beyond this year here in 2021? Cass, I know it seems pretty quick to say this was a massive mistake, but is it a massive mistake?
Well, you can say massive, or is it a mistake?
Okay,
I think it's a mistake. And for traveling, I think one that could end up costing him his job, that probably will end up costing him his job, giving a 3-year contract versus a 2-year. I think if it was a 2-year deal, you get a little bit extra grace because you have, the end of the COVID year to say, okay, well, it was a weird year for everything. We didn't perform as expected. Let's see how next season goes. But that extra year, that's going to make it pretty tough. And I thoroughly expected the Flames to get a little bit of a bump, more of a bump from Sutter. I think everybody did, and it didn't really happen, or it just happened for a lot shorter, which is interesting. And I'm going to chalk it up to not necessarily a massive mistake, because bringing in a coach like that usually gets you a little bit. So at the time, I was like, oh yeah, this makes sense. It's not bad aside from the length of the contract. But now it's like it was a mistake. I don't think that Jeff Ward doesn't seem to be what the issue was. So maybe this hurts you a little bit longer term and is a mistake.
That's what I like about it. I like the fact that that's bad to say, but because I like it. It's not Jeff Ward's fault, because he's a solid dude. I really like him I liked him as an assistant coach in the minors. He was such a positive guy. He was easy to talk to, and really, I remember him when he coached over in Germany for one of the lockout years, and I had a lot of German friends on that team, and they said how great it was to have him as a coach and stuff. So I'm glad it wasn't all his fault.
Yeah, and there's just no response, right? And I know one of their media guys, since their 3-game winning streak when Sutter started they're 2-8. Like, I mean, Can you guys see this team in the last 17 games turning it around? I can't.
No
Because
chance.
if they would
They're
have
done.
done it by now, yeah.
Yeah, they're done. Now, here's the funny question, because, Cash, you brought up tree living. Is Daryl Sutter the next GM of the Calgary Flames? Like, if you've committed to Sutter for 2 more years after this one, you're sitting there. I mean, if you get a GM, he's going to have to craft this team in Sutter's mind anyway. Could you just say, hey, look, Daryl, you got 2 years here to turn this franchise around or you're done too? Like, I just don't know how you bring in another GM and say, and Sutter's your coach for the next 2 years.
Do you think you have enough capacity with Sutter though, just from a life standpoint? Like, just there's, I know
busy. You're right. That's a busy gig.
Going on. And so coaching and GM, like that's a lot. And if you're asking him to do work from a family farm standpoint and semi-manage that or manage that as well, like that, that puts a lot on his plate. Not to say that I guess he couldn't do it and do a good job of it, but yeah, I don't know if could you do that? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. Oh man, I don't think you can. Like, and what does that look like? What does the Sutter team look like? Like, how are you going to craft that? Are you Johnny Gaudreau's gone. We know that in a heartbeat. He's gone.
Gaudreau, Monahan are gone. Hyman gets an 8-year deal, $6 million per.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Taylor Hall comes back to Calgary too, probably.
There you go.
You think both are gone, Dusty?
No, I was just kidding on that one. I do think of Sutter. Well, I think either way, actually, one of them's gone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. It's wild, buddy. That's nuts. All right, let's continue here. Gager, what do we got to talk about?
Well, I just wanted to talk about Patrick Marleau hopefully becoming the all-time leader in games played in the NHL. Another guy who I've never met personally, but I've known a lot of guys that have played with him, and just a solid guy to have on your team. And just looking at Oilers, their third line center position, I want to hear you guys think about this.
Oh.
But I look at possibly adding Patrick Marleau in that type of situation. He checks off a few boxes. He checks off the old man strength box. I mean, look no further than the Leafs with Thornton and Jason Spezza, how they're contributing to their teams this year in a lower role. He can play in top six. I hate seeing great players not win Stanley Cups, and to get a last kind of kick at the can. Maybe there's some sentimental value from being a Sharks for so long and allowing him to go to Edmonton for maybe a reasonable price. I don't know if that would work out, but I think adding someone like Patrick Marleau to the Oilers makes a little bit of sense, just because of the maturity level, the experience. He's gone to a cup final before, and his ability to play up and down through the lineup. And I know he hasn't scored a ton this year. I think he only has 2 goals, but there's a couple guys in Buffalo that are considered goal scorers with the exact same totals, I think. So I think it might work, but you guys can rip me apart here. Go.
You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Gager, you know I love you, man, but I mean, a lot of the things you say that they're looking for does make sense. Like a lot of the intangibles that Patty Marleau would bring make sense. But he's got 6 points in 37 games. He's winning like 46% of face. I don't even know how many faceoffs he's taken. This is tough because I'm basing it on stats. I haven't watched him. Maybe he looks better than the numbers lead you to believe.
I'm here. He looks bad.
Yeah,
but I just think
I'm watching him. He looks bad.
It might revitalize that type. He's not going anywhere in San Jose. He knows that. But all of a sudden he comes and plays with McDavid and Draisaitl, and maybe
you get a good 2 months out of him.
What did we say?
Hernan, go ahead.
Sorry, what did we say when Joe Thornton was going to start the season with Marner? We were like, this guy doesn't need Joe Thornton to produce. I think Dusty made that point. I don't mind it, but keep in mind, San Jose Sharks are only 2 points out of a playoff spot. They might not be looking to move him either. I don't, and like you said, he's only got 6 points in 37 games. I mean, I don't think he hurts you, Gager, but I think the Oilers probably looking to go younger, maybe a guy with a little bit more speed and all that. Because it almost seems they want an upgrade there for the Haas spot where they can interchange Haas and maybe another guy, and Kyra's your mainstay in the bottom six at center. But I don't hate the idea. I don't see the Oilers bringing in Marleau and they look at that as an upgrade maybe on what they have in the bottom six. But like you said, he does have the pedigree. I mean, this guy can score. This guy's shown it. He's done it every year in this league. So in that sense, I don't mind it, but I just don't see the Oilers going that route.
I thought of it too as another way of maybe you didn't have to give up as much as you did like a young prospect too. That's the other kind of box that I thought checked, but
minimal price, right? Like it's gonna be nothing.
Yeah.
Cass?
Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know what it brings. I don't know if it makes you that much better. Like I don't hate it, but I wouldn't do it.
What about the sentimental value?
There is sentimental value, maybe, but I'm not into sentimental value this year from a hockey standpoint. I'm into winning. If you want sentimental value, Gager, then you should be cheering for the Oilers to trade for Taylor Hall because that is sentimental for the Edmonton market.
Oh man,
I see them almost bringing in the stocking. I see them bringing in Marleau like that mascot figure where it's like, look, my name's Connor McDavid and I want to win a Stanley Cup for me, but I want to win a Stanley Cup for Patty Marleau even more. You know, like
isn't it the Ray Bourque, the Ray Bourque thing a little bit?
Yeah, Ray Bourque was still pretty good though. He was still pretty good when they got him, wasn't he?
He was okay. He was
better than Patty Marleau.
He was still playing like 22 minutes a night.
He was still pretty solid.
He was still pretty good.
Man, Gager, when you texted us this morning and said you want to talk about Patty Marleau destinations, I didn't think Edmonton was going to be the one that popped up. I love it. That's great.
I wrote it all down, Dusty. I do my preparation before, buddy.
That's good.
I didn't know. It's no. I guarantee no one else is talking about it.
I do tie this into what we got to talk about for me, and that is we're a week away from the trade deadline. I don't know if the Oilers do anything. Let's go around the horn here. Hernan, let's start with you, buddy. What do you think they need to do? What do you think they might actually accomplish?
Well, you'd want a winger in the top six, but that's not going to happen. You know what? I'm kind of on board with a little bit of an upgrade in the bottom six. I mean, I think that's just looking at the Oilers money-wise and what they can give in return. There's not a lot you can go out and get. So you got your 3 goalies. I think defensively you're pretty solid. I mean, you still have Legis in there, and I know I'm missing a name in the decor. Anyways, I mean, I don't know about Slater Kukla if he's ready to go in the playoffs or anything like that, but I think they're set there. So yeah, up front, ideally you'd want a guy to play more consistently than what Ennis and Kahuna brought to that second line. But like I said, I don't see that happening. And then it might be in addition to the bottom six, and I'd be okay with that. And I know Palmieri was held out yesterday because they're looking to move him, and that's a guy that would fit nicely, but I just don't think the Oilers could get him. I don't think they have the pieces. But honestly, Dusty, I'm not getting myself excited for many Oilers moves come next week. So I'd say very minimal.
Yeah, I'm going to be Mr. Boring and say I don't think they do anything. And I don't think they should do anything. I know that's not exciting. It doesn't give us a lot to talk about with it, but what are they going to pay and what are they going to bring in? You are better suited if you're this Edmonton team and if you're Ken Holland to do something in the offseason because prices are going to make way more sense. You're not dealing with COVID. You might still be dealing with COVID, but you're not dealing with bringing someone across the border and time frames and navigating that, where there's more concentrated areas where teams are trading in from a Canadian and a U.S. perspective. I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me to be reaching to do a lot. Next year will be the big year. Next year will be the year that if there's opportunities at the trade deadline, you're probably going to be looking to make big moves. But look for it in the offseason versus this deadline.
Yeah, well, this is why the Patty Marleau thing makes sense, because you wouldn't have to give up much, right? Like Cass, you don't want to give up much. You don't want to sell the farm on this, and you just get the old horse for a little bit, and then take him to the bus station.
Train station.
Train station.
Okay,
Sorry,
yeah,
train
yeah.
station. Well, in
Cass,
hockey, it's a bus.
how far along are you?
We got like one episode left in season 2, I think, or 2.
Okay, good.
It's intense. We watched 2 episodes yesterday, and we were gonna watch a third, and I couldn't handle it. I'm like, man,
Needed a break.
Like, I was stressing me out. I'm like, this is too stressful. I'm like, I'm upset emotionally, and I'm frustrated, and I'm happy, and I'm very sad at the same time. So like, I can't deal with this.
Well,
Speaking of my one of my old junior buddies, Nick Vachon, actually Rogie Vachon's son. Obviously, they lived in LA. Moved to Montana. I just actually got off the phone with him because I found out he moved there, and phoned him and asked him if he was just watched too much Yellowstone, wanted to be ripped. So he goes, yeah. So Rogues and his son are in Montana. Nice house. I checked it out. I wanted to go down there and stay once things clear up because, well, I've got to be close to Rip as possible. I think it's his house is in the same city where it's filmed, so that ranch is there. So I gotta get down there. It'll be awesome.
wow.
Hey, Gage, you realize Rip is like a fictional character and not a real person, right?
He's real. He's real to me, Cass.
He's real to
me.
If you're watching on the live stream, we're talking about Yellowstone. And if you're listening on the podcast, watch Yellowstone, because we're going to get to an episode here where we get to go full-blown spoiler alert once Cass is caught up, and it's going to be amazing. It's going to be great. All right. That's everything we want to talk about. Let's get to keep it or clip it. Let's start with this one. We talked about him a little bit earlier on, but I said, stop. We'll come back around to him. Eric Stahl will end up being a pretty good fit with the Habs. Keep it or clip it.
Clip it. They should have got Marleau. Would have made more sense.
Ride or die, Gager. Ride or die.
I'll keep it. I kind of like his role. He's on that third line. He's playing with Drouin today, and
Toffoli.
I can't remember Toffoli. He's going to be parked in front of the net on the number 1 power play unit. He's got the hands. I mean, I know he's a little bit older, but I like it. I think he is going to be a good addition, so I'll keep it.
I don't know if you guys can hear it, but I just hear someone sprinting circles above me upstairs.
I thought you were just Ferdinand was tapping his desk.
No.
I like it. I'm going to keep it. I think he's a good fit. Brings a little bit of offense. Not as spry as he once was from a speed standpoint, but still has the ability to score goals, and I think still helps them offensively. So it's a little extra depth up front for them, and I think he makes them a better team. So I like it for them. It was a good fit. Not a cheap trade for them to bring him in, but I think a good one for the Habs. So I think it was good.
I think it's a good fit because you look at their other centers. It's Danault, who doesn't have much playoff experience, but he's a little bit more of a veteran guy. And then you got Suzuki and Kotkaniemi. So you really don't have much experience down the middle at all. I think it's a nice little fit. We'll see if it clicks tonight. I mean, a line of Drouin, Toffoli, and Stahl is a pretty good third line. I mean, I'd take that ahead of Haas and Kassian and Archibald. And I like all three of those guys, but Toffoli and Drouin, I mean, that's a pretty good setup. Question number 2. Nobody loves anything more than Mike Smith loves beating the Flames. Keep it or clip it.
Oh, keep it. He's pumped up after those games. I don't know what happened when he left there, but it was obviously not on good terms because there was a few extra pumpernickels at the. Those pumpernickels were so. I thought he might hurt himself. I was like, hey, stop that. That we don't want to pull a hammy on those things. But yeah, good for him.
I mean, do you think he loves his wife more than that?
I'm not even sure. Probably. But I mean, he must love his wife a lot because he absolutely loves beating the Flames. She probably loves it too. when you get to see that your husband beat the Flames like that.
Yeah, I'm not
I think
excited,
honestly,
yeah.
I think you guys should all clip it because obviously Gager loves Patty Marlowe more than Mike Smith loves beating the Flames.
No, it's good. I like those. It's emotion. It's getting everyone fired up. We're looking for the Mike Smith pumpernickel at the end of each game.
I'll keep it too, because you saw his emotion, and then kind of Darnell just kind of looking at him like, "Holy man!" Like, but that's like you love that, man. Like that's what you want, especially if you're having success, man. Like show it. Who cares? Like I love it.
Especially if you're the goalie of the Edmonton Oilers and it's the Calgary Flames. Like that's exactly what you want. I think it's good. Okay, I don't know if you guys saw this trailer, but the new Loki show will be better than WandaVision. Keep it or clip it. Hernan, you can skip this one if you want.
Yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. So yeah. I'll skip.
I'm going to keep it because I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Like having him as a what's the proper term? An anti-hero, where he's a bad guy, but he kind of is going to be the hero in this instance. And there's going to be a lot to do with time in it. So it's going to be jumping all over the place. So it could be pretty interesting. Like I liked WandaVision. I thought it was offbeat. They kept it pretty self-contained, and it was entertaining. Like I enjoyed it. But this to me, just from a story standpoint, is a little bit more interesting, and I'm excited for it. So a ton of options for them. Like they could go a number of directions, and it will be pretty interesting. So I think it's going to be better. I haven't seen a new trailer yet, though.
Buddy, you got to watch it. It looks amazing. Gager?
I hate to rank my Marvel stuff because I hold them all at such high regard, but it's tough to compare because they're two separate kind of things, and they did such a good job of showing why WandaVision was the way it was. I thought that lead up story was actually needed when you look back at it, but yes, it did kind of drag on a little bit. Loki's going to be way more breakneck speed, not unlike the Winter Soldier that's on right now, I think. And as we get closer to some of the new movies, there's going to be more little tidbits in there, I think, on how the whole Marvel universe is going to keep going. So yeah, I'll keep it, Dusty. I'm looking forward to it. It is going to be great.
It's going to be fun. I think it looks really good. Okay, final question, boys. This is a question about the team that is currently first place in the National Hockey League standings. The Florida Panthers are legitimate Stanley Cup contenders. Keep it or clip it.
Keep it, although they are much less so with Ekblad being out.
Keep it. I agree with Cass.
They got a really good team, guys.
I worry about Bobrovsky. But
Driedger's been great anyway. Right?
Yeah, but he's not going to play ahead of Bobrovsky, is he? Like they're going to ride him. Yeah, maybe. I haven't watched enough of those games. I know Bobrovsky's capable of winning a series by himself, but seems to tail off after a while and doesn't keep up that. I mean, it's hard to keep up some of the play at the level that he brings it to at times, but I'll keep it.
I'll clip it. I think they're a really good team. I think they deserve. Obviously, they're where they're at in the standings for a reason, but I just think it's. I wouldn't call them a Stanley Cup contender just yet. I think they're a really good playoff team, but I think they'll be ousted in the first or second round. That's my hot take, Dusty.
Yeah, I see, and I agree with what Cass said about them being a really good hockey team, but I also agree with what Hernan says that they're a really good hockey team that hasn't done anything ever in the playoffs. Like they haven't even got there and dramatically lost and have been extremely disappointed, in my opinion, at least. So I feel like there's a learning curve there. You're missing your number one defenseman, so I wouldn't put them in that class with Tampa, Carolina, Washington, Vegas, Colorado, but I'd put them in that other. I'd put them in that other group. Yeah. I think that's fair.
Mid-tier.
So yeah, they're good though. They're good. All right, boys. Well, that's going to do it for another episode here of Two Guys and a Goalie. I'm going to go chase my 6-year-old behind a bike all afternoon. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be, can't wait. It's going to be outstanding. It's going to be fun. We'll have 2 games to break down on Thursday's episode here of Two Guys and a Goalie as the Habs and then the Senators as well. Who knows? Maybe even a Bouchard game on Wednesday against the Sens. Probably not, but maybe.
Will we see Stalock?
No, I don't think so. I think he's just an injury replacement if need be. Sorry to break your heart, Gager. Yeah,
I don't know.
They're gonna flip him for Marlowe.
Who's activated?
Episode 131. Gage loves Marlowe. Yeah,
I was going to say the Marlowe affair.
The Marlowe affair. That sounds very dramatic. Yeah, I like that. The Marlowe affair. Nice work, Cass. Hernan, let's go with that one. Episode 131. The Marlowe affair. All right, boys. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll chat on Thursday. All right. For Joaquin Gage, Matt Kassian, Hernan Salas, and our presenting sponsor, CoolBet, sign up for an account. Use the bonus code 2GUYS. You get a 100% deposit bonus on your initial deposit up to $200. We will chat with you on Thursday. Thanks for watching and listening.